Your Expeditions into Spirit guide, Val Jon here. The forgotten labyrinths of Oxkintok were not merely underground chambers carved into stone. They were initiatory passages into the hidden terrain of the human psyche. Beneath the jungles of the Yucatán, Maya apprentices descended into darkness to confront fear, uncertainty, death, and the deeper forces that live within the core of every human being. But the purpose was never to remain in darkness. The journey through Oxkintok's Satunsat Labyrinth was a sacred process of transcendence, teaching that fear is not conquered through denial, but through courageous engagement with it. The initiates entered into the underworld not to escape themselves, but to discover that the very forces they feared could become the doorway to wisdom, strength, and expanded consciousness. As torchlight flickers across ancient stone corridors, we explore a worldview in which the cosmos above and the inner world within were reflections of one another. To the Maya, the path through darkness was also the path toward awakening, a movement beyond fear into balance, insight, and communion with the greater living intelligence and consciousness woven throughout the universe itself.
We're here at Oxkintok, which is about 20 miles from Uxmal. There's a whole different feel at this site. It's got more of a primal feel. There's not the high temples to the stars. Here, in fact, if you look behind me, you'll see a lower temple and complex. This is much more closer to the earth, much more closer to the so below. So Uxmal was more of as above with the stars and the stellar observatory and the temple of the magicians. Here at Oxkintok, it's more about being grounded. It's more about the darker, deeper forces. In fact, there's lightning and thunder today, which kind of signifies the feel of this place. So we're going to do a little exploration. Here at this particular part of the site, we can see some of the ancient stonework, the steps. It looks like there was a higher pyramid here in the back. But the real feature of Oxkintok is over here to my left. Okay, we're here at the entrance of the labyrinth, the Satunsat Labyrinth at Oxkintok. This is an incredible building, and you can see here the stonework. You can see the portals or the entrances. This is where the sun entered into the deep, dark labyrinth area. And right here behind me is the actual entrance into the labyrinth. This represented a portal into the underworld for the Maya, just as the cenotes were a portal into the underworld, but a watery underworld. This is a dry underworld, and because it was dry, because it was a labyrinth that was intentionally built for the Maya, I believe that the Maya used this labyrinth as a way to engage in ceremonies, and also ceremonies that had to do with not the as above, but the so below, or the deeper forces existing inside of us, the forces inside of us that compel us into fear and terror, and take us into places of uncertainty, of unknowingness, and of mystery, and of wonder. But particularly going into this labyrinth was an opportunity and a challenge for the Maya to take the practice of the as-above principles, of the inspiration of the stars, the inspiration of spirituality as we know it in terms of love or enthusiasm or joy, and putting that inspirational philosophy to the actual test of really going into their fears, into those primal forces. And for the Maya, I believe that it was this paradox between the aspirational or the inspirational and the actual going into the depths where we're deep and dark into our experience. And that's really where the wisdom of the Maya comes to life in terms of living with the above, with the middle world, and the below world, all together in one kind of unified, what the Maya called the grand astrological order. Now, to understand, to kind of get a grasp of what this labyrinth actually means, Satunsat in ancient Maya means to be strong. And the question is, what kind of strength was necessary here in this labyrinth? And I believe it was the strength of facing into our fears and having the kind of courage that it takes in order to dive deep or to travel deep into the darker forces existing inside of us and to be able to uncover them, to travel into them and to get familiar with that inner terrain, just like you were going to get familiar with the inside of a labyrinth. And here at Oxkintok, there's a number of portal openings that come into this labyrinth, but there's only two main openings that come into and shed light into the labyrinth 2 times a year, only during 2 days. One is during the spring equinox, and the second one is during the fall equinox. I have a philosophy that the Maya and particular initiates were actually given the opportunity and the privilege to be able to venture deep into this labyrinth and be in the labyrinth maybe for a day, maybe for a month, and it could be that they were there for a year and that these 2 equinoxes gave them a break in between these 3 times of darkness. Okay, we've moved up close to the opening of the labyrinth here, and I have to tell you that the feel of this place is definitely dark. It goes in and then it turns to the right and heads downhill. So I can tell that the labyrinth goes downhill. And the information that we have about this is that there's 3 tiered layers inside this labyrinth. And again, that models the underworld, the middle world, and the upper world. And I just believe that ceremonies had to happen in this underground sanctuary in which the Maya got in touch with the deeper, darker forces that exist inside of them, and then to really be with those forces and to bring forth the kind of courage, the kind of spiritual courage and the kind of human courage that's necessary for us to face into our terrors, into our fears, into those things that dominate us in our lives. And the Maya knew that it wasn't enough just to teach the inspirational material of spirituality or the illumination of the stars. There were really came down to was actually living the philosophy in their everyday lives. And in order to do that, we've got to face and confront the deeper forces inside of us, because whatever it is that we don't face inside of us is what dominates us in our lives and keeps us from being fulfilled and happy. So inside this deep, dark kind of dungeon was the kind of transformational process that I believe that the Maya embraced, not only in their philosophy, but also in their everyday lives. Absolutely incredible. Now, in terms of me going in, I think I'm going to stay out, and I have an idea that I'd like to be on the beach in Cancun, but I can definitely get the power and the value of moving into this place and really coming to terms with those deeper forces.
A little humor helps balance out the ominous prospect of facing into our deepest fears. While the gate to the labyrinth was locked, our friend and diving companion Dante managed to help us gain access to a nearby cavern used by the Maya for many of the same purposes as the labyrinth. As we venture in, I invite you to open to the dark terrain existing within. For without exploring the inner cavern of our so below and becoming familiar with what resides there, we unconsciously act out over and over again that which we are unaware of, or that which we refuse to accept within our depths. As we descend into this Maya cavern altar, allow me to share an example of what I mean. The darkness of being betrayed over and over again is not just the result of untrustworthy people, but rather the outcome of us being blind to our own hidden gullibility, our dark need for dependence, or our deep unresolved insecurities, unexpressed anger, or sadness, or grief. Here in this sacred cavern, the Maya dealt with these sobering challenges by addressing them squarely through rites of passage, rituals and ceremonies, intentional engagements that delivered the Maya to courageous ways of being, ways that empowered them to illuminate their darkness, embrace it, own it, and then use it as a positive asset rather than as a disabling liability.
Okay, we are in which cave here, Dante?
Utsil Cave.
So this is the Utsil Cave, and Dante, our diving buddy from the cenote, is here with us. And Dante, you are a student of archaeology in a number of different forms. Why don't you share with us what we're seeing in the ceiling of this cave?
Well, there are a lot of Maya writings over there. So what is incredible is how they get to there, to that top. The effort they were doing to be there and be writing the message they were trying to give. What I can see over there on that side, there are like numbers.
See.
Number 3 over there related with the Maya glyph.
Yes.
And it's a kind of difficult to understand.
Go back to that 3. See, this is interesting, Dante, the theme of 3. I've seen it over and over again on this expedition. The Maya tapped in somehow to this theme of 3. The upper world, the middle world, and the lower world seems to be everywhere in Maya philosophy, yes?
It is true, as you are saying. This could be represented the 3 levels that where we're living, the cosmos was.
Okay. Incredible. As we can see, this is an ancient place. There's ancient limestone here, there's formations. Hieroglyphs on the ceiling definitely represent some kind of sacred ceremonies occurred in this place. This certainly has the underworld feel here. You can actually just feel the energy of the Maya, of the secretness of this place, of the sacredness of this place, and the absolute incredible sense of going down into the underworld and really feeling and being with those darker forces, not necessarily negative forces, but darker forces that are related to the earth, to the more primal nature of what it means to be alive. And I believe that's one of the main keys here, is to be in the middle of the earth, to be in the more grounded aspects of being real and being a human being was essential for the Maya in order to be able to practice more spiritual principles in a way that's very authentic, in a way that's very real, and in a way that's very human. God, this is incredible. Wow.
This ancient stone face staring into the underworld darkness may well have been an ancient selfie carved by one of the Mayan initiates, capturing his or her astonishment of coming face to face with a jaguar that had been intentionally inserted into the other end of the labyrinth to orchestrate a mortal engagement that would either serve as a rite of passage into transcendence for them or as a sumptuous meal for the jaguar.
So here in the ceiling of another cave area, we see 3 openings. Again, the theme of 3. And these are intentional openings. Maybe the larger one has been there, but they certainly have been carved out. And what we can see is the sacred tree that connects for the Maya, the upper world, the cosmos, the center of all creation, or Hunab Ku, with the middle world of everyday consciousness and awareness, and then with the lower world of the darker, deeper forces that exist inside our psyches at the levels that we normally do not see, but still you can see the roots of our identities arise from the ground of a center core being, a center core of our being, in which it taps into the primal earth energy, the more primal aspects of our identities, of our personalities. And as you can see here, the tree draws its nutrition, its water, its life up through the trunk, again through the middle world of everyday consciousness, and rising into the heavens, again into the cosmological infinite, the central axis of the entire universe, Hunab Ku. So emerging from this labyrinth, if you can imagine 1,000 years ago, or maybe even more, Maya initiates coming out of this labyrinth, having faced their deeper fears, having come to terms with the darker forces that exist inside of them, coming out into the light and being here at Oxkintok and actually integrating those paradoxical forces, moving not beyond their fears, but moving into their fears in a way that they discovered something really remarkable. So coming out of this labyrinth, for them to face into their fears is not about getting beyond their fears or transcending fear. It was actually about embracing their fear in a way that they weren't afraid of fear, because it's the fear of fear itself that creates a paralysis in our lives. But when we can be strong and engage in our fear and use our fear as a way to inspire us, to heighten our awareness so that we're more vigilant, we're more aware, not more paranoid, but actually more aware of using that energy in a positive way. And that's what I believe one of the main purposes of this labyrinth was to be able to give the Maya an opportunity to take that which is inspirational, bring it down into real reality, grapple with it, integrate it, and then bring forth that wisdom into their everyday lives. Incredible lessons and learnings here at Oxkintok and its sister site at Uxmal. That really concludes our expedition here at this particular site of Oxkintok. What a remarkable journey to see these two parts of as above and so below.
As we leave Oxkintok and head for Koba on the eastern side of the peninsula, the key learning we take with us is that if we are to mature into the light of spiritual divinity, we must have the courage to embrace the dark forces moving within the core of our humanity. It's easy to espouse being spiritual or to claim we're inspired by faith when all is well. But what about when we're terrified, or when our survival is threatened, or when we get nudged out of our comfort zone? What measure of authentic spirituality do we demonstrate then? The Maya initiates who ventured into Oxkintok's labyrinth and sacred caverns were surely put to this ultimate test and had to come to terms with the dark forces moving within them. While it's speculation, I can envision these brave initiates emerging from the darkness with an otherworldly resilience and a knowingness that they brought forth the courage to be and the courage to not be, a true surrender to life's movement, a mature wisdom that can only result by engaging in extreme tests of character. Most spiritual practices teach love, compassion, and peace as the ultimate goals. But without testing ourselves in the face of our deepest fears, in the face of annihilation, meaninglessness, and isolation, such spiritual goals remain just that, goals, and not realities. What a remarkable human handprint of wisdom the Maya left for us. Hands reaching out of the distant past, beckoning us to follow the way of forging the courage to be. The courage to be with whatever life delivers to us, and not just to passively accept what life brings, but actually reach out for it, embrace it, with the kind of courage that moves us to be ever more human and ever more divine. Wow, Oxkintok. If this virtual expedition inspired you and you want to see more, give it a like and subscribe and post a comment. These small actions help the channel grow, and I would very much appreciate your support. See you next time here on Expeditions into Spirit.